Hello all, I'm Marin. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about the 8 books that I am hoping to read during the fall season. So let's go ahead and get into it. So in 2025, I decided to create seasonal TBRs. I have filmed 2 other seasonal TBR videos. I did a winter one and a spring one. I failed to do a summer one because that was during the period of time where I was not really filming a lot. So here's the fall one to kind of wrap up the seasonal TBR thing. And then I do think I'm going to do seasonal TBRs again in 2026, but I'm going to do them, I think, in a different way. So I will talk about that more when I start doing my end of year content and wrap ups and things like that. So in this video, I'm going to share the 8 books that I'm hoping to read during the fall season, and I will share a small synopsis for each of them. So let's go ahead and just roll right into it. The first book that I would like to read this fall season is one that I have had on my radar for several years, and that is The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa. This one is all about Nana. Nana is a cat. Nana is on a road trip, but he is not sure where to. All that matters is that he can sit beside his beloved master Satoru in the front of his silver van. Satoru is keen to visit 3 old friends from his youth, though Nana doesn't know why and Satoru won't say. Set against the backdrop of Japan's changing seasons and narrated with a rare gentleness and striking humor, Nana's story explores the wonder and thrill of life's unexpected detours. It is about friendship, solitude, and knowing when to give and when to take. Above all, it shows how acts of love, both great and small, can transform our lives. So this one I have heard amazing things about, and with the kind of fall leaves on the cover, I feel like fall is the best season to read this book. So I'm really hoping to actually get to this one this year. It has been on my radar for like the past 2 years, and I just have not had a chance to read it. Also, my black cat has just made an appearance, so you may see her tail in the background. That is Sage. Anyway, so that's the first book. Next, I'm going to roll into more of a horror type book, and that is In the Lonely Hours by Shannon Morgan. I do not own this book, but I did read another book by her last year, which was called Her Little Flowers, and I really enjoyed it. I really like the gothic atmosphere that she puts into her writing and the settings and things like that. I also really liked how her character, at least in the case of the first book, was an older woman. We don't have a lot of books, in my opinion, from that age demographic, so I was really happy to see that. I don't know if this next one has that as well. I'm gonna go ahead and read the synopsis. This one is described as a gothic horror, just like the first one was. They are not related in any way, like they're not sequels, but here is what Goodreads says. It says, in a bewitching, melancholy, thrillingly modern ghost story for readers of Eve Chase, Megan Shepherd, and Lisa Jewell, the new inhabitants of a centuries-old castle perched on a remote island in northwest Scotland must confront its tragic and terrifying history. On a small island in a remote corner of northwest Scotland lies Maudrill Castle, owned by its wealthy namesake family for centuries, until now. Edwina Nunn is shocked to learn a relative she never heard of has bequeathed the castle and its land to her. What awaits Edie and her teenage daughter Neve is even more startling, for the castle is home to a multitude of ghosts. Yet there's a strange beauty in the austere architecture and the eerie bloody waters of Loch Nescathana, the Lake of Shadows. Beguiled by a frightened ghost who gazes longingly out of the castle's windows, Edie and Neve are drawn to the legend shrouding the island and the mystery of the Maudrill Red, a priceless diamond that disappeared decades before. So it goes on to say that there's been some like tragedies, the gem may or may not be cursed. That's kind of the setup for this one. Very similar vibes to Her Little Flowers. That one was also a ghost story, so I'm hoping that I can squeeze this one in because I did really like Her Little Flowers, and I would like to read everything else this author has written. I believe she has one other book beside this one, so this would be 2 of the 3 that I would need to read. The next book on my list is one that got a lot of hype a couple years ago, and that is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. I feel like I'm one of the only people who hasn't yet read this book. I do have it on Kindle. I picked it up for like $1.99 in a sale, I think last year, along with a couple others in this series. Also, side note, let me know, do I need to read this series in order, or can I like pick and choose which books I want to read? Because there are a couple that sound a little bit more interesting than others, but I don't know if I need to read them in sequential order for them to make sense. But anyway, that was an aside. This one got a lot of hype initially, as I mentioned, but it actually does not have a great rating on Goodreads. It has a 3.37 rating, and I feel like most people are giving it like 3 stars. But I still want to read it because it is on my Kindle and it obviously fits the fall vibe. So it says, this is a spicy small town romance, perfect for fans of Hannah Grace and Stephanie Archer, neither of which I have read, but that's another aside. Anyway, it says, when Jeannie's aunt gifts her the beloved Pumpkin Spice Cafe in the small town of Dream Harbor, Jeannie jumps at the chance for a fresh start away from her very dull desk job. Logan is a local farmer who avoids Dream Harbor's gossip at all costs, but Jeannie's arrival disrupts Logan's routine and he wants nothing to do with the irritatingly upbeat new girl, except that he finds himself inexplicably drawn to her, of course. Will Jeannie's happy-go-lucky attitude win over the grumpy but gorgeous Logan, or has this city girl found the one person in town who won't fall for her charm or her pumpkin spice lattes? To be honest, this is giving me a lot of vibes from In the Weeds by B.K. Borison, kind of the same like Grumpy Sunshine type setup. And then in that one, we also had the guy who kind of like didn't really get involved in a lot of the town stuff. But anyway, that one I really liked. So we will see where the Pumpkin Spice Cafe happens to fall. I do plan on getting this one read as part of a vlog, so you can stay tuned for my thoughts. I'm hoping that I like it more than a 3-star, but we'll see. And speaking of B.K. Borison, the 4th book on my TBR for fall is Business Casual by B.K. Borison. This is the 4th book in the Lovelight Farms series, and this will complete a series assuming that I can get Mixed Signals read, because that one I've started but haven't finished at this point. Anyway, this one is about Nova, which is the sister to the guy I was just talking about from In the Weeds, funnily enough. So it says Nova Porter isn't looking for love, and she certainly has no explanations for her attraction to buttoned-up 3-piece suit-wearing investment banker Charlie Milford. And he is the brother of the person that we meet in the first book. Maybe it's his charm, or maybe it's his determination to help her fledgling business however he can. Either way, she's distracted every time he's around. With her new tattoo studio set to open in her hometown of Inglewild, she doesn't have time for frivolous flirtations. In an effort to get Charlie out of her system once and for all, Nova offers a proposition. One night, no strings. They'll kick their uncomfortable attraction to the curb and return to their respective responsibilities. But their explosive night together scatters their expectations like fallen leaves. And with Charlie in town as the temporary head of Lovelight Farms, Nova can't quite avoid him. And Charlie, well, Charlie knows a good investment when he sees one. He's hoping he can convince Nova he's worth some of her time. So it sounds really cute, very much in the same vein as the other books in this series. And this one is the fall book, hence why it is on this TBR. So I'm hoping that I can get this one read, and I'm hoping that I enjoy it. Of the 2 books that I've read in this series, Lovelight Farms is my favorite, but we will see what I think, hopefully, about Mixed Signals and then Business Casual. The next book on my TBR is another one that has been on my TBR for a little while because I believe this one came out last year. Let me look. Yep, 2024, and that is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. This one's about vampires, hence why I've saved it for the fall, even though I believe it was released in like February or March or something. But anyway, it says, in a shabby house on a shabby street in the new capital of Madrid, Luzia Cotada uses scraps of magic to get through her days of endless toil as a scullion. But when her scheming mistress discovers that the lump of a servant cowering in the kitchen is actually hiding a talent for little miracles, she demands Luzia use those gifts to better the family's social position. What begins as simple amusement for the nobility takes a perilous turn when Luzia garners the notice of Antonio Perez, the disgraced secretary to Spain's king. Still reeling from the defeat of his armada, the king is desperate for any advantage in the war against England's heretic queen, and Perez will stop at nothing to regain the king's favor. Determined to seize this one chance to better her fortunes, Luzia plunges into a world of seers and alchemists, holy men and hucksters, where the lines between magic, science, and fraud are never certain. But as her notoriety grows, so does the danger that her Jewish blood will doom her to the Inquisition's wrath. She will have to use every bit of her wit and will to survive, even if that means enlisting the help of Julian Santangel, an embittered immortal familiar whose own secrets could prove deadly for them both. And I believe that's like where the vampire thing comes in. But anyway, so that's the summary for this one. It does sound interesting. I think I've heard some mixed things about it though. I honestly can't remember at this point. I have liked pretty much everything I've read by Leigh Bardugo, so hopefully this will also be a hit. The next book on my fall TBR is actually a book from my 2025 TBR, so I am really hoping, obviously, that I can get this one read, and that is The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek. So this one says, Angrboda's story begins where most witches' tales end, with a burning. A punishment from Odin for refusing to provide him with knowledge of the future, the fire leaves Angrboda injured and powerless, and she flees to the farthest reaches of a remote forest. There she is found by a man who reveals himself to be Loki, and her initial distrust of him transforms into a deep and abiding love. Their union produces 3 unusual children, each with a secret destiny, who Angrboda is keen to raise at the edge of the world, safely hidden from Odin's all-seeing eye. But as Angrboda slowly recovers her prophetic powers, she learns that her blissful life, and possibly all of existence, is in danger. So that's kind of the little setup of this one. A friend of mine read this one and really enjoyed it, and we tend to have similar reading tastes, so I'm hoping that I will like this one as well. And again, this one is on my 2025 TBR, so it definitely needs to get read. The 7th book on my fall TBR is the last one that I physically own, and that is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. So I know she has come out with a sequel to this one, I believe, but I never read this one, so obviously I have not picked up the sequel. This is a vampire and werewolf, like smutty romance, I think. So this one says, Misery Lark, daughter of a powerful vampire councilman, is an outcast. Her days of living anonymously among the humans are over. She has been called upon to uphold an alliance between the vampires and their mortal enemies, the Wares. Wares are ruthless and unpredictable, and their alpha, Lo Morland, is no exception. He rules his pack with absolute authority, but not without justice or feeling. It's clear from the way he tracks Misery's every movement that he doesn't trust her. If only he knew how right he was. Misery has her own reasons to agree to this marriage of convenience, reasons that have nothing to do with politics or alliances and everything to do with the only thing she's ever cared about. And she is willing to do whatever it takes to get back what's hers. So obviously I feel like this is going to turn into like a happily ever after type deal because it is Ali Hazelwood, but I have heard that this one is very different than everything else that she's written. And I have read, I want to say I've read like her most popular releases. I did not read Deep End yet. I am hoping to get to that before the end of the year. And I have not read Not in Love, which I know was kind of divisive. This one I think probably also was a little divisive because it kind of veers away from the contemporary romance, but I've always liked paranormal romance, so we will see what I think about this one. All right, the final book on my fall TBR is called The Murk and Midnight Hour. This is by Jane Nickerson, and it is the sequel to Strands of Bronze and Gold. Both of these are fairy tale retellings of a sort. So Strands of Bronze and Gold was a retelling of Bluebeard, and this one is a retelling of Tamlin. So this one, I think they're just like interconnected. They're not like direct sequels, so this does not have spoilers for the first book. But basically this says 17-year-old Violet Dancy has been left at home in Mississippi with a laudanum-addicted stepmother and love-crazed stepsister while her father fights in the war, a war that has already claimed her twin brother. When she comes across a severely injured Union soldier lying in an abandoned lodge deep in the woods, things begin to change. Thomas is the enemy, one of the men who might have killed her own brother, and yet she's drawn to him. But Violet isn't Thomas's only visitor. Someone has been tending to his wounds, keeping him alive, and it becomes chillingly clear that this care hasn't been out of compassion. Against the dangers of war and ominous powers of voodoo, Violet must fight to protect her home and the people she loves. So this one, again, I think a little bit more gothic, maybe a ghost-ish type story. Tamlin, I think, has to do with fairies, so probably the fae. So I really enjoyed Strands of Bronze and Gold. It's got a little bit of a low average rating, but for me, it worked really well. I really liked the vibes, the atmosphere, the writing. So I'm hoping I will get similar in the second book. So there you go. Those are the 8 books that I'm hoping to read during the fall season. Now for me, fall runs all the way until it actually turns winter on the calendar. So I have a little bit of September and then all of October and November and a little bit of December to try to get these books read. So we will see what I can accomplish, what I can get read. But there you go. That is my fall TBR. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me. If you made it to the end of the video and would like to leave an emoji to show that you were here, you can leave me a leaf emoji in honor of fall, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.